All right, we're going to go ahead and go through the menu items one at a time. Under the Orders tab, come in under View Orders. You'll notice that we've kind of condensed all the navigation and searching functions. This was to give more screen real estate to the actual data so that when you're in here working, you'll be able to see more of the orders and less of the filters at the top. Right now, all of the search filters you can access by clicking the search filter box in the top left, and this will give you a drop-down list of search filters: patient name, RX number, claim reference ID, order ID, our new workflow field here we can sort by, as well as billing type and date of service. So as we use the filters, they get applied up here to the top bar. And at any time you want to remove one of the filters that's been applied, we can click on the little X right next to the name. So right now we have a filter applied for patients with a name test. And you can see all of our test patients listed here. If we want to remove that, we can simply click on the X and that will remove that filter from our list. So you can see down the right-hand side, we have all of the RX numbers, and you'll notice the colored boxes, those represent our different workflows. So we have 5 main workflows in the system: unbilled, billed, settled, reconcile, and then there's a voided workflow. We also have a special workflow called verification. Verification is a manual workflow that you can use if you're doing claim verification or patient verification within RXBilling. Some people do that in MD scripts and use the billing unapproved functions in MD scripts, but we wanted to add a way to do data verification in RXBilling as well. So I'll show you how that process works in just a moment. But the primary workflows, when the claim first arrives into RXBilling, it'll be placed in the unbilled workflow. As the HCFAs are printed or the claim is billed out, it will be moved into the billed workflow. After a period of time, if a claim goes into collections, it will be moved into the collections workflow. And then once a claim has been paid, it'll go into the settled workflow. There is a separate voided workflow that you'll see in a moment, but a claim that is completely paid, has no open balance, will be in the settled workflow. If a claim has a payment that has been paid, but there's still an open balance, it will be placed in the reconcile workflow. So that'll tell you that there's still an open balance on the claim that you need to go reconcile and either write off or appeal for the remainder of the balance to be paid. So we can use these workflows in a couple different ways. The most likely would be if you have staff that are responsible for different parts of the billing process. So users that would just be responsible for billing claims out, they can come in and they can filter our orders view just by unbilled. And that gives them all the items that are sitting in an unbilled status. Users that are responsible for posting payments might be looking for claims that have already been billed and are waiting for payment to be posted. Collectors would be looking at claims that are currently in collections, so they can filter by the collections workflow. We also have a special collections view on the orders tab. So right now we're looking at the standard view, but in the top right, if we select the collections view, this gives us a consolidated view of all of the orders that are in collections, along with options to filter by our collection buckets. So if we come in and filter by a collection bucket, and again, these are customizable for every group. We can come in as a collector who's working on bucket E and just see the claims that are in collections within our bucket, and then that gives us the links to go over and click into the order details and perform collections duties. So we're going to go back over to our standard view and we're going to go walk through the billing process and how that works. So if we go and search for our unbilled workflow items, or we can just select one from the right that's already in an unbilled status, we can come in and click on the RX number. You can see the order detail screen has been improved. We've taken all of the vital information and moved it to the top box. Patient name, claim information, jurisdiction, created date, date of birth, social, date of injury. And then all the secondary information has been moved down the side of the screen. So things like prescriber, site information, employer, payer, those are all placed on the side of the screen. And this was done to move the main billing operations and billing information up higher in the screen so there's less scrolling. So under our order items, we can see we've got one order item on this order, one RX number. We can see the workflow is unbilled for that item, the NDC numbers, reference NDC, medication name, form. A lot of this information is the same that we have in the old RXBilling. And then underneath this RX number, you can see the new timeline view. So right now we have a note in here that this claim was created on 12/9. And the next step in our process is to create charges or void the order. And so this timeline view is especially helpful for new users to know what the next step in the billing process is for this claim. As we get to some of the other examples in the future, you'll see how this timeline view will be helpful, especially when you have claims with multiple RXs that may be at different statuses. You can turn the timeline on and off with the toggle in the right-hand corner. So turning the timeline off just gives us the normal table with the information. So when a claim is ready to be billed, all the billing functions will be shown here in the bottom of the screen. We're in a demo site now, so we've got a number of EDI billing functions, work comp EDI, Japari. So depending on your group and depending on your billing options that are enabled, you may have fewer or more options shown in the bottom. So we've got our normal HCFA profiles. You can choose from your profiles. If you have tax IDs configured in the system, you can choose the tax ID. And then we've got all of our paper billing options, blank HCFAs, HCFA PDF, and then we can mark printed, print, mark printed, create AR, mark as billing printed, and then our create HCFA history form. All of these functions are the same that we have in the existing RXBilling, so they should be familiar operations. One thing we have done is greatly improved the HCFA calculation log. Before it was kind of a rough list of how we were calculating the charges. But now when you look at the HCFA calculation log, we give you all the relevant information on how the charges are being calculated. So we have RX numbers, the NDC numbers, whether we're using the reference AWP value for calculations or not. Then we'll have the AWP value that's being used for the charge amount, brand and generic flags, Department of Labor flag, what the claim jurisdiction is. So if this is a work comp claim, the jurisdiction will drive what fee schedule is being used. We'll then show the fee schedule calculation. So in this case, we're using AWP times 2 plus $10. That's the fee schedule that I think we have as an override on this site. And then the estimated charge amount will show out here to the right. And so this will automatically update if there's AWP changes. In the old RXBilling, I think we had a field in the middle of the screen called work comp reimbursement. So that used to be the estimated charge amount. So now we've brought the estimated charge amount down here into the HCFA calc log, so you can kind of review and see how the charge amount is going to be calculated. So if we have multiple RX numbers, you can choose from the list which ones you're going to bill by selecting the checkboxes. You can also select all, select the different steps if you want to select multiple RX numbers using different criteria. In this case, if there's only one line item, we don't even really have to check the box. The system will assume that we're billing that item. And so we're just going to go ahead and mark this as printed and create the AR. So you'll notice at the top, we've got the notification that we created the receivable and that we saved a form into the HCFA history. And now all of our billing options have been hidden. We've already billed the claim. We're going to hide all those billing options to help simplify the screen. And then we have our payment posting options shown after that, since that will be the next step. Our timeline's updated. It shows that we billed this claim on 12/13. And our next step is to post a payment, write-off, or void. So again, the timeline view helps give you an indication of what the next step is for this claim. If we come under the billing forms, you can see the HCFA copies that were generated. So you can reprint those as needed. Our collections tab we'll get to in just a few minutes, but this is a consolidated collections view for our collectors, so they can come in and look at overall the amount of charges, payments, write-offs, what the open balance is, what the bill methods are, whether this was sent out via EDI or billed via HCFA. Our ledger tab will show the payer log entries or ledger entries. And then the history tab shows the history of the claim. So that's the overview of the order detail screen. We'll come back to parts of this in just a little bit when we look at the collections process. If you ever want to get to the patient profile, you can click on the patient name anywhere in the system. Again, we've updated the patient profile to more closely resemble what you see in MD scripts, just so it's a familiar look and feel. You know where to find the information. On the details tab, we'll have all of the patient details, as well as the patient notes and alerts down in the bottom right. The orders tab for the patient, just like in MD scripts, will list all of the orders that we have for this patient in RXBilling. We'll give you the dates of service for all of the orders, charges, total payments, write-offs, and the open balance for each date of service. We also have the links where you can go to the order details screen, and then the indication of whether this item is in collections or not with the little collections icon. One thing we did simplify is the patient statement creation process. Before, you would have to go to the statements area, search for a patient, choose the dates of service, and then generate the statement. We moved that here to the orders tab. So if you're already looking at all of the open orders for the patient, we can select all, come down, choose the HCFA profile that we want to use, and we can generate the patient statement right from this order screen. So if you're already in the patient profile, you can easily generate a patient statement by selecting one or more of the dates of service from the orders tab, and then selecting the patient statement at the bottom. The ledger tab under the patient profile will give you all of the ledger or payer log entries for this patient. And so this allows you to look through all the details of the ledger entries, the billed amounts, the paid amounts, descriptions, NDC, meds. And then if you need to edit any individual line item, you can click the edit link out to the right, and that will take you to the ledger screen. Notes will be a consolidated view of all the collections notes for the patient or other notes that have been posted. And then the history tab gives you all the history for patient changes. So we're going to go back to the order screen and look at some other examples of orders that are in different parts of the workflow. So we just did an unbilled, and then we billed the claims. If we want to, we can come in and look at an item that is in collections. So we can see this item is in collections. The last time the item was billed was 114 days ago, so there may be a collector coming in to work this claim. They can come in and select one or more of the RXs to add a note.
Or you can set collection status for individual RXs by selecting them and then clicking on Update Collection Status button.
So if we're just adding a note to this single line RX, we can come in and add a note. All the normal note fields are available: adjuster name, phone, email. Our alarm dates, you can choose from a date from the drop-down calendar. There's a couple predefined dates here that are just history dates that my browser's picking up, but you can go through a calendar now to choose your alarm date instead of having to manually type it in. and then adding the note. So the alarm dates are going to show up back here on our order view when we go into the collections view. You can see down the left-hand side, we have all of our alarm dates. So if we wanted to go ahead and post a payment for this claim, say we received a check in the mail, we can come in and apply check payment. And this is going to give us all of our check fields across the date or across the top. Deposit date, payee are optional. Some people use those for other tracking. You can add a default description for all items being posted to the check. So the description up here in the check will be applied to each one of the line items, or you can enter a custom description down below for each individual line item. By default, the check amount is going to default to the full amount of the claim. You can modify that if you'd like. So if we just did $150, again, we can come back, select the items that we're going to apply to the check. Tax ID, our codes, insurance paid is the typical one. There are other payment codes available. Enter in the amount that we're posting. We can write off the balance right here if we wanted to. The short code that was available in the old RXBilling is still available here. If you just put the letter B, that'll write off the balance, but we can leave the open balance here and go ahead and post our payment. So you can see that our workflow has been updated. So now instead of collections, this item has been moved into a reconcile workflow, which means we have an open balance, but we have already applied at least one payment. So our next step in our workflow is either post an additional payment, write off, or we need to void the whole thing to get the receivable off the system. So if we come over to our ledger entries and just click on edit, we're going to jump over to the ledger real quick directly from the order. So if we click on edit, it's going to take us to the ledger screen for this particular order. And so in the previous system, if we wanted to write off the balance at this point, we would have to manually type into the empty payer log fields all of the information in order to write off the balance. On the ledger screen here, we've added a couple quick actions out to the right. We can edit line items, we can delete items, but for this example, we've got an insurance payment. So we could reverse this payment automatically from this screen. Or if we come down to the charge, the insurance bill, we've got the option of voiding the charge, or we can just write off the balance. So if we choose to write off the balance, system's going to ask us to confirm. It will automatically put in the write-off code for us with the open balance amount. So no more manually typing NDC numbers and dates and amounts. You can just choose from the write-off. So go back and look at one more example. In this case, let's use our search filters. I'm going to look for a test patient with the last name Jones. And we're going to come in and look at this order. And this is a good example of how the workflows are helpful in the timeline view. We can see within this order, we've got 4 RX numbers. 2 of them have already been billed and settled, and then we have 2 more that were just billed. I just did it right before this call. So we've got 2 line items that have been billed and settled, and then we've got these other 2 that we've just recently billed. So you can see the next steps for 2 of these line items are certainly different than the other ones. So as you work each individual RX within an order, you can at a glance see what the next step is. So if we went through and posted a payment for one of these items, we can see now that it's settled and then we still have the one open item that needs to be billed. You can manually change the status if you want, the workflow. So if I come in and click on the line item, we can update workflows, and let's just say I need to manually move this into collections. We can manually change the workflow and move it into collections if we wanted to. Again, we can come over and look at this patient's orders and see the ones that are still open with open balances and which ones need to be worked from a collection standpoint. I'm going to cover the ledger real quick. We've kind of seen parts of it, but if we come in to view ledger, this will give us the traditional payer log view of the system. And what we can do is we can use the filter options here. So if we want to see everything on a date of service of 5/27, and then if we want to filter it down by patient, we can click on the patient filters and just look at all of the ledger entries for that particular patient. And again, we have actions here. If we want to edit one of these line items for changing an amount, changing of date of service, any individual edits, we can choose edit, and that gives us all the fields that we can change. A lot of the times the edits that are done are changing the batches. Before, it was kind of a hidden process to go change the batch on items. Here, all you have to do is select the line item, and now we can come through and change the batch on something if we need to. And we also have collection statuses. Again, those were kind of hidden in the old interface, but now you can come and modify the collection statuses for an individual entry if you'd like. Once you're done, you can hit save or cancel, and that will save your changes inside the ledger. If we're posting commercial checks, we can come in and post a payment. These are checks that aren't associated with one specific claim, but multiple claims. And so what we would do is we'd come in, we'd put in our check information, and then we're gonna build or add all of the open items to the check that are being paid. So we can come through, we'll just filter by the site, but you can also add insurance carrier, plan, date of service, but we'll just keep it filtered by the site. But we'll come through and we can see all of our open items, and we can just find and choose the items that we're going to add to our check. Come down, check the boxes, click on add to check, and now we have all of the items that are being covered by this check added. You can come down and enter description. Again, if you put a description in the checkbox, it will autofill the description for each line item, adjust any amounts that need to be adjusted, and then post our payments. So it's the same screen, same process. We've just consolidated Easy Post and Easy Post 2 into the same screen to make it a little bit more user-friendly for people that maybe are posting both types of checks. All right, I'm going to cover reporting real quick. We've got all of the standard batch reports that we've had in the past. We've aggregated or grouped them together so that you can kind of more easily find the reports that you're looking for. So we have a group of activity reports. These are mainly based on transactions that are coming and going in and out of the system. Accounts receivable and aging reports are grouped together. Revenue and commission related reports. Collections monitoring reports. Again, we've made the change to start tracking collections notes at the RX level instead of the order level. So some of these collections reports will work much better in terms of seeing the actual RX numbers that are in collections, as opposed to having an overview of the orders that are in collections. And then we have general reports for things like voids with AR, not billed report, unsettled report, vital signs, etc. So those are the normal reports you should be familiar with. Our custom reports is a new feature that we've added. And so what this does is it allows you to come through and create your own customized report based off of one of our existing reports. So we'll walk through the process. We'll click on new custom report. Right now, our billing summary is the one customizable report that we have in the system. We're adding 2 or 3 more in the next couple weeks, and then we'll have a rollout of additional reports in the future. We're working down the list of most popular reports first so that we can get those added for the most popular used reports. So we'll choose our base report, create customized report. We'll give it a name. Access level, private versus shared. If a report is shared, that means everyone within your group will have access to it. So if I create a report, I can share it with other users in my group by marking it as shared. If I just want the report available to myself, I'll leave it marked as private. We can choose output formats. Right now we have CSV and HTML, or we can do both options. We do have plans to add a native Excel XLSX format in the near future as well. And then you can choose to include or not include summary rows at the end of the report. So if you're only generating a CSV file, typically you're not going to want to include the summary rows because those mess up the sorting and filtering you may be doing in Excel. So you can opt to not include or include the summary rows. Different reports that we may add may have a couple different options available in this area for you to customize the output. And then we have a list of all of the available fields that we have available in this report, plus extra fields that weren't available in the original. So we have all the patient-related fields. We can use patient full name, or we can have a separate field for first, last, and middle name, date of birth, address, city, state, or we could have a combined field for city, state, and zip if you want those in one field instead of separate fields. Phone numbers, driver's license, patient notes. For the pharmacy or site fields, we can include the name, the address, and let's say the zip code, NCPDP number, DEA numbers, phone numbers. The ledger fields, these will be things like the RX information, RX number, medication name, amount billed, date billed, bill method. This report does have a running total available in it, so you can include or not include the running total. Order fields, so we can include things like the collections bucket, the employer name, payer name. Some of those aren't available in the original report, but we can add them here. And then the prescriber fields, let's just include a DEA and maybe a last name and a first name. So once we've selected all the fields we want to include, we now have the option of ordering the fields. And so this screen allows you to change how the ordering of the fields will come out on the report. So if we want to move the billing type here above the RX number, we can just click and drag and move that up. If we want the prescriber information at the right after the patient, we can come and move all of the prescriber fields up underneath the patient. And then maybe we'll move the date of service ahead of the RX number. So this screen allows you to reorder the fields that will be on the output. And then once we're finished, we click done. And now you notice under our custom reports here in the bottom right, we have my custom report. We can click on it. You still have the same filter options that are available. So we can still filter this report by group, pharmacy, start and end date, and then we can submit the reports. So again, you can see the difference between shared reports and private reports. The shared reports will have the icon with multiple people, and that just lets you know that it's available to everybody within your group. And then the private reports will just have the single icon.
In addition to the customized reports, we're also adding the ability to schedule reports. Looking at an example, we can see that the schedule report options are weekly, monthly, or daily. This sets the time when the report will be run, and then we can define the time range that will be run for the report. The predefined options currently are previous day, previous 7 days, previous 30 days, current month to date, or the previous month. So if we wanted to run this report once a week and run the report for the prior week, we can come in and configure this. When we submit the report, it will save the schedule, and you can then go in and modify schedules or review upcoming reports under the scheduled reports area. So if we wanted to change the schedule, we can click on the edit settings and come in and change the frequency and the time range.
All right, I did see a couple chat questions come up, so I'm going to review those real quick and just see if there's any other questions. I can go back and review for anyone that has questions. If you would like to try out the new version, you can switch yourself over under My Settings, come down and select the new user interface option, and that will enable your user for the new version of RXBilling. And if you want to go back to the old version, you can come under My Settings and just uncheck that. I will make note that the workflows are only going to be affected if somebody is using the new version, and there is a script that we have to run to update everybody's group and all of the orders in that group to be the appropriate workflows. And then once you're using the new interface, that will be how the workflows are maintained. If you go back to the old interface, the workflows won't be automatically updated. So feel free to jump back and forth between the two interfaces and see what the differences are. We do have documentation that's currently being worked on, so we will make that available as soon as we have some of it out. And then after the first part of the year, we'll probably do another session, more of a Q&A style, and answer any questions that anybody has. If you want to set up a private demo just for your team or your group, open a support ticket or send an email to support@rxbilling.com, and we can set that up and answer any specific questions. Post payments, somebody was asking about that. So under the ledger menu option, there's a post payment link here, and that's the one that allows you to start from a blank payment, and then you can search and add items to that check that you're going to post. If you're posting a work comp, auto PIP, or personal injury payment that's just a single check per claim, the easier way may be to go under the specific order and come down and click on apply check payment from the order screen. And so this would allow us to select the items that we're going to apply the check to, and then come down and post the check here. So it's the same process, the same screen, just coming at it from an existing order allows you to pre-populate the post check screen with the items that you'll be posting the payment against. There are already some permissions available per user on the report side of things, so we can already filter out which reports are available to certain users. The controller users have access to additional reports other than the biller users. Controllers can access the site commission and some of the other financial reports, and the billers cannot. The order details screen right now, there is no way to edit what's shown in the top up here, but we can take that under consideration and maybe make that customizable for each group to kind of determine what they want to see. We do have customized collection statuses that's currently being tested. So this allows you to come in and custom enter your particular collection statuses. And where you'll see that is if you're under orders, and you want to set a collection status for an item. So this list is the default list that's in the system, appeal lien, demand letter, rebill. You can customize this list with your own values so that it matches other systems or other things that you're reporting on. So we can configure that for the group. There's also some configuration now available for when an order goes into collections. So previously an order that was past due by 60 days and had more than 20% outstanding of the AR, it would automatically be marked as in collections. We can now customize that for each group so that you can set those thresholds higher or lower for your claims to automatically be considered in collections. So those are configured at a group level. You would need one of the MD Script staff to make that changes, but the collection status, the customized collection statuses can be done by group level users. Okay, I think that was most of the questions that was posed in the chat. Again, thank you everyone for joining in on the demo today. And again, if you have any questions or Once you switch over and begin using the new version by changing your settings under Home, My Settings, New User Interface, feel free to test it out and try it out. It is connected to all of the same live data as the old interface, so you can work out of both of them concurrently on your existing data. Everything works the same, and you can test out different features side by side if you'd like. Feel free to send in help desk tickets or emails if you run into any questions, or if you want to schedule a private demo over the next couple weeks, and we'll do another group demo training session after the first of the year.